The washed-up magician Zong Jiu transmigrated into a horror infinite flow novel about a survival show, taking the place of the cannon fodder who died tragically in the first evaluation round. This show was very interesting. Out of the tens of thousands of people, only 100 people could survive, and the C position could even get a universal wish ticket. If it were someone else, they'd probably be scared to death. No one expected that Zong Jiu was not only unafraid, but also caused a sensational stir, shamelessly showing off his tricks the whole way. Once his tricks stopped, and his life could be considered safe and sound, he ended up in a rivalry with the novel's big villain. Today, you try to get back at me, tomorrow I'll get back at you. Back and forth. It's pretty fun. As a result, though it was just playing around, one time they got carried away and really did end up sleeping together. Watching the nemesis who was pressing him to the ground, Zong Jiu showed no trace of fear, and actually continued to provoke him. That person used his ice-cold fingers to trace his ears, and action heading towards the aorta suddenly stopped. What a pity. I've changed my mind. Thriller Trainee, or 无限练习生, is a novel written in 2018 by author Wang Ya, consisting of 260 chapters. Some of her other works are Would You Like to Have a Drink?, director of a suspense film, and Daily Disposable Persona. Thriller Trainee is actually ranked 3rd in terms of rating in the Infinite Flow category, which is a surprise to me. Don't get me wrong, it's really good, but my personal ranking would be different. Now that we have introductions out of the way, let's get into the characters. Zong Jiu is our white-haired albino magician. He has the cheat of having all the unique features of an albino with none of the side effects, like being sensitive to sunlight. A lot of stories have their main characters described as having unparalleled beauty, but is often forgotten about and just described for that one time. Thriller Trainee, however, makes it very clear that it has never forgotten Zong Jiu's unmatched beauty setting, and will make sure you don't forget it either. The story skillfully weaves in a few paragraphs of Zong Jiu's beauty every now and then to give your mind a break from all the bloody deaths going around. Anyways, enough of Zong Jiu's beauty. Let's talk about his character. One very apparent trait of Zong Jiu is that he is very vengeful. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and 10 years is never too late for a gentleman to make a comeback. You may have forgotten the grievances imposed on him, but he sure as hell didn't. Zong Jiu's the kind of guy who makes sure that he always has the last laugh in the end. This trait of his is similar to his counterpart and enemy, the Devil. Both are characters too stubborn to back down and surrender, which makes their fight all the more entertaining. Zong Jiu and the Devil, although being destined enemies decreed by fate, share a lot of similarities. However, although Zong Jiu has little care for the lives of others, unlike the Devil, he doesn't find joy in human suffering. He is simply apathetic towards everything and finds such things unnecessary. So in comparison, he is still more human than the Devil. Also, Zong Jiu, although being very detached from everything, always seems to end up taking leadership in tough situations. He's very skilled at controlling the crowd and atmosphere, probably due to his profession as a magician. He knows when it's necessary for him to step up and lead others to survive. Lastly, though the Devil is considered more powerful than Zong Jiu in terms of strength, Zong Jiu compensates with his smarts. He constantly has a way to outsmart the Devil. Even when at a disadvantage, he always finds a way. It never feels like one is overpowering the other. Both are on the same playing field, and in the end, it's a battle of wits to see who can give the other the most surprising twists. The Devil. Number 1 on the ranking, and the most likely to win the Universal Wish ticket. The embodiment of evil himself. No one knows his true name, so people only refer to him as either the Devil or Number 1. He is the destined enemy to our lovely magician. Something this novel does that I don't see often is actually make the male lead the actual threat and antagonist in the story. The Devil at the start, and for a majority of the novel, is set on killing the main character. Even when he's not, he's actively an obstacle in Zong Jiu's way. This is due to a prophecy that Zong Jiu's presence will soon lead to his downfall. And also because Zong Jiu keeps provoking him, of course. Every time he thinks he got rid of Zong Jiu always finds a way back to return the favor. The Devil is constantly sabotaging the games and making it difficult for Zong Jiu. Even when he's not set on killing the main character anymore, he doesn't go out of his way to help him. He just observes from the sidelines and sometimes stir up some conflict for him to deal with. He looks forward to the downfall of the magician and for Zong Jiu to come begging him for help. At the start, he was getting on my nerves with the way he was just popping out of nowhere just to fuck with Zong Jiu. He's a flirty, sadistic asshole who revels in the death and sorrow of others. However, his backstory and character development by the end of the story helps to soften his character. The plot for Thriller Trainee is amazing, but what really carries the story and makes it stand out from others is the romance between Zong Jiu and the Devil. But Losu, you just said that they're enemies for half the novel. How can the romance carry? To that I say, who needs romance when there's a thing called sexual tension? I can say that enemies to lovers fans are eating well with this novel. The sexual tension between these two is so thick you can cut it with a knife. Both are destined enemies, so there was no chance of them being friends from the start. Their tit-for-tat dynamic is incredibly entertaining. Every time they fight, you never really know who's gonna come out on top. You think Zong Jiu's won? The devil will prove you wrong. You think the devil won? Zong Jiu will personally crawl back from hell to give you his greetings. Their confrontations aren't all fun and games either, as both parties are actively out to kill each other. Also, every time they do interact, there's always some unnecessary touching and getting real close in each other's personal space. Not that I'm complaining, because those scenes were hot. Literally and figuratively. Isn't it hot in the coffin, guys? But they're the kind of enemies that whisper sweet death threats in each other's ear while choking the other person out. The atmosphere between them was always so ambiguous and oozing sexual appeal. The vibes between them were basically, I want to wipe him off the face of the earth, but why is he so goddamn sexy? When the devil does come around to favoring Zong Jiu, you think that's the end of it. But no, the devil comes out to prove that he is still a walking red flag not to be trusted. If the magician ever agreed to be friends with him, he'll toss him aside and kill him without a second thought. Because what he really loves is Zong Jiu's fighting spirit to always resist him, the entertainment he brings by always standing opposite to him. Cause where's the joy in having your crush actually like you, am I right? A lunatic doesn't need a friend, he just needs an opponent. The cold, apathetic magician slowly falls for the devil for the same reason the devil falls for him. They finally met a worthy opponent who is able to keep up with their insanity. Both of their existence bring a much-needed spark to each other's dull lives. Despite not really believing in love, they're quite passionate when they do eventually end up together, evident by the abnormal amount of smut in this novel. Seriously, it's not a lot, and not that revealing. But it's a lot for a Chinese infinite flow novel, which usually focuses on mystery and action. Important to note that although I keep calling the devil a red flag, he isn't. Well, it depends on what lens you're looking through. His actions and the way he expresses love are definitely questionable and obsessive, but they fit his nature and the role he plays. His extreme mindset is consistent with his origins and what he represents. The devil doesn't cross any lines with Zong Jiu though. Even if he wanted to, the magician wouldn't let him. But yeah, I just wanted to clear that up for anyone who's not a fan of red flags. Anyways, there's a lot of scenes I want to talk about, like the coffin scene and the masquerade, but I don't want to spoil it for readers who haven't read the novel yet, so for anyone interested in my thoughts, you can stick around till the end of the video, where I'll talk about spoilers. To end off this segment, we have to mention, say it with me now, the CP name. The CP name is already well explained by the translator for this novel, so I'll just read it off for you guys. The CP name between Zong Jiu and the devil is jjwxc, an idiom for when all is said and done. Zong Jiu's name is Zong Jiu. The first character is his family name. The second character, Jiu, is the character for 9 in Chinese. The syllables are reduplicated as a nickname for him, Jiu Jiu. So literal translation for jjwxc is Jiu Jiu returns/belongs to one, or maybe 9921, to keep the translation sounding like a CP name. Jiu Jiu is also a homophone for Jiu Jiu, which means for a very long time. As such, it can also be read as forever belonging to number 1. This is a beautiful CP name. I mean, they managed to change a normal idiom into something romantic and meaningful. What more can I say? In the Thriller Trainee game, there are different rankings for each player, from rank S to F. After each instance they play through, the players will be assessed by the system and an instructor. The players will either upgrade to a higher rank or downgrade to a lower rank. The last rank after every instance will be eliminated. For example, after the first instance game, every rank F player will be eliminated. And after the second instance, rank E will be eliminated. The elimination will go on until 100 players remain. The final game will be a battle between the top 10, which are the S ranks. The winner will get the Universal Wish ticket and be granted their desired wish. The ongoing plot between the instances is Zong Jiu's plan to overthrow the devil. Sitting comfortably at number 1, he is guaranteed to win the wish ticket. Such a ticket falling into the hands of someone like him will spell disaster for everyone. Of course, there are other reasons too, but that's for you to find out. Zong Jiu, as the destined savior, is forced into the position where he has to get to S rank and battle it out with the devil for the wish ticket. At first, he wasn't very willing as the matter didn't concern him. But after a few encounters with the devil, the thought of crushing the devil and foiling his plans was so sweet he couldn't resist. In the story, we see a bit of power struggle within the top 10 as they were separated into 2 factions. One side standing with the devil and the other side standing with Zong Jiu. The original plan was for all of them to fight it out in the end. However, the blossoming romance between the devil and the magician provided a less bloody solution. But if the two sides did have to fight it out, I'd wager Zong Jiu would win, since his side consisted more of the higher ranks. And he had Zhuge An. I mean, having that guy on your team is already a cheat. Anyways, the instances in the novel were interesting to read and were standard for an infinite flow novel. I liked how some of them had story elements based on real events. The first instance with the doctor was so mind-chilling, and I honestly can't comprehend how something so insane was allowed back then. I would say this novel is different from other infinite flow novels in that it places more emphasis on the relationship between the main character and the male lead. Usually infinite flow novels focus more on the world and challenges around them. Romance often isn't the focal point of the story. However, in Thriller Trainee, the romance and relationship between the leads plays such a central role. It's so crucial that it's the final deciding factor on how the story ends. The chemistry between Zong Jiu and the devil truly overshadow every other aspect of the novel. Even as someone who isn't usually drawn to heavy romance when reading an IF novel, I can honestly say that their relationship was the main hook that kept me reading. Time to chatter on about spoilers, so anyone who isn't interested can click off or check out another one of my videos. This part is loosely scripted, so just listen to it while you do the dishes or something. Alright, so I'll start with the coffin scene. Oh my god, if you ignore the fact that Zong Jiu could have died, they were pressed so close to each other, and Zong Jiu's escape plan being to literally set the fucking coffin ablaze and bring the devil along with him was so cool. I was not expecting that. He was like, let's taste the feeling of being burnt alive together. The masquerade event when he dressed up as the devil and they tangled it out in the dark had so much sexual tension that it could strangle me to death. Cause the devil was just feeling up and toying with Zong Jiu, who is practically blind and had his senses heightened by the darkness around him. Speaking of filling him up, there was a part of me that always found this scene funny because in other people's eyes, it was just two notorious devils passionately entwined and dancing together. We read from Zong Jiu's perspective, so it doesn't feel that awkward. But think about other people's eyes. I don't know how the devil didn't feel uncomfortable flirting and touching someone with the same face as him. Can you imagine saying all those ambiguous things to your own face and getting turned on by that? Penguin Zhuge An was so cute too. This all-brains dude decided to dress up as a penguin for a masquerade ball when he could have come in anything else. Tsuchi Mikado and the exorcist's bet was also hilarious. At that point, I had multiple ships between the S ranks and was kinda disappointed when there weren't any side CPs among them. Zhuge An and Vanzhou could have been the ultimate power couple. Instead of that, we got two normal players falling in love. It was ludicrous how basic they were. It was like reading two NPCs falling in love. Sorry to all Sushin and Sushu shippers out there. If you have any complaints, leave it in the comments. Moving on, the last arc was honestly not what I expected. I expected a big 1v1 battle between the two, but instead I got a whole year worth of domestic life and dog food. However, the ending was sweet. When the devil stood behind Zong Jiu and just silently hugged him from behind, no flirty words or playful comments, just a silent pleading for him to stay. It really touched my heart and changed my view of him. This was the only point where I felt the pure sincerity of the devil's love for Zong Jiu. This was him at his most vulnerable. I don't even recognize him anymore. Where's the perverted and maniac devil that would lock Zong Jiu up in a cage a couple arcs ago? The last arc really showcased his character development, from evil incarnate to someone who takes into consideration others' feelings and put others before him. He willingly gave up victory and allowed Zong Jiu the opportunity to leave and hurt him. God, it was so satisfying! That's all for the video. If you made it to the end, thank you, and leave the comment Squad 9 Unite, so I know you sat through my whole rave.